just before we get started, I'll add in links to all the reviews for the e-bikes I've put in the top 5, and there'll be discount codes in all of them. You might be able to double up on some of the discount codes, so it's well worth having a look at. Anyway, let's get on with it. So, Happy New Year everyone. Welcome to 2025. I never thought I'd make it this far, to be honest. I thought it would have been done a few years ago, but I'm still here. You're all still here if you're watching this. So again, Happy New Year. What I want to talk about today, what was going to be my top 5 Engwe e-bikes of 2024, is now going to become, for SEO reasons, going to become my top 5 Engwe e-bikes of 2025. So, where do we start? Well, in at 5, that little P20. You can't knock this little bike, and it must be giving Brompton the shits in one form or another because of the cost of it. And it does far more than what the Brompton can. You can ride it without a battery. The range was incredible on it. And, you know, I never really had any big problems with hills with it either. It was just a great little bike. Fold it up, throw it in the back of your car, take it on the train. It's that perfect last miler. It really is. And it's also a bike you can just nip out on if you want to go somewhere local. But it has the range to do so much more. It's my favourite little commuter bike, it really is. And I think I scored it quite highly at the time, and this month I'm going to be doing a few more videos on it because it's such a good little bike. I've asked Engwe to send me another one out, which they've done, which at the end of it I'm giving away to a friend of mine who's quite poorly, so that'll be in a video as well. As far as small commuter e-bikes go, it's a doddle to ride. It's one of the easiest bikes that I've ridden round on. And like I said, you don't really need a battery with it, but it's there when you need to get up those hills. Let's do the hill test. Right, let's see if we can get up this 112 foot over a third of a mile hill. Now listen, I've had bikes that are 48 volt that are heavier than this, never made it up this hill. So let's see how this little P20 does. Now I classify this as a commuter last miler bike. So you take it on the train, take it to your last few miles at work, or you take it down to the parking ride, get it out of your car, do the last few miles to work. And for this it's going to be ideal. Plus just nipping into town. It's a cracking little bike. So as I already said, it's a torque sensor, belt drive, just under 10 amp hour battery. It's well, it's not struggling up here at all. You are restricted to a single speed, but for what you're going to be using it for, throwing it in the back of the car, occasionally using it there. To be honest, you work 5 miles away, this thing's fab. Get it to work easily. And I'm riding 5 miles in, well, 6 miles from, well, it's probably 5 miles from here, into town now. But yeah. It's just on the hill climb. That's it, we're in Leeds. We've been here before with most e-bikes that I review, or more to the point, been here before with the commuter e-bikes that I review. As you've seen, it's ideal for just popping into Leeds on and just getting to work. That's the whole idea behind these bikes, that you have a piece of secondary transport to get you from A to B. Well, there's a lot to like about it as well. I mean, the fact that it's got hydraulic brakes makes a big difference. Those small tyres, they grip really well as well. They're like gummy, and it's so quiet. And the reason it's so quiet is down to that belt drive. I say plastic fenders, I don't mind them. Can use them all day long because they're quiet. And that battery, small as it is, does the job. I do like the brake lights and the indicators. We'll do a little bit more on them in the dark, or somewhere a little bit less bright. Fold up pedals. It's brilliant. The little bike rack, it's a little bike rack. So when I tried putting my pannier on it earlier, it was a little bit too small. But I could have adapted the pannier, or I could do it at some point, but I won't need to because really I've got my backpack. But yeah. What else do you want from your e-bike? What else do you want from a commuter bike? It's fab. If you can see that steep hill ahead, I'll try and zoom in on the footage, but I'm going to get up that, then I go downhill a bit, and then I got another one of them to get up, down a bit, and then another one to get up. Pretty much probably the worst way to do this, but there's only one way of finding out if it'll make it. If it makes up here, I'll be really impressed. This is like 3 long, really horrible hills. So this will be fun. They're off. So you see, it's a really horrible steep hill. It's long, and it's going to torture the battery a bit. But there's only one way of finding out if it'll make it. It's not going to be the fastest hill climb. But this is one of those ones where you're going to watch your battery sort of like sag. So you're probably going to get down to a bar lower than you actually have in the tank. And then when you go downhill again, your bar magically reappears. But yeah, it doesn't look steep probably on the camera, but it's steep enough to mess with your batteries. And at the moment, mess with my quads. I'm in turbo, I haven't got full boost on, so I'm trying to make sure I get home. But made the first hill. Do I sound out of breath? My quads are a bit burny, but we've not just dropped one bar, we've dropped two. It's only a small battery though, small motor. So, you know, dragging my 245 pound weight on the top of it probably hasn't helped it. And my bars are back. I said one of the other great things about this is, apart from tightening stuff up on a regular basis, which you're going to have to do because there's no suspension on here absorbing the vibration. Vibration loosens stuff. So now we're back into another big long windy hill, and this one's sort of like the same again. Actually, it's probably time and a half. It's probably 2.5 times what we've just come up. So let's get it on. And the grind continues. You'll see what I mean about this hill when we get around the bend. I mean, I'm halfway up it now. But needs must. Got it in turbo, I'm not going to pull it into boost. But by the time I get to the top of this hill, I'd have probably dropped 2 bars, of which I'll gain at least 1 back, if that makes sense. It's a few more hills before I get home. But yeah, like my safe word, keep going. We're now getting to the top of this hill, then we'll drop down into Morley. But as a test, this is like 3 miles uphill, maybe more. So we got to the top of the hill. I'm going to drop down into Morley now, give this poor battery a rest. So let's talk about in it 4. What could be my 4 favourite Engwe e-bike of 2025, 2024, 2025. What can be my 4 favourite e-bike of 2025 that Engwe builds? Well, it's going to be the L20. For a long time I took the mickey out of that bike without actually riding one. And when I actually took one out for a ride for the first time to review it, I was massively surprised. It was a brilliant little e-bike. Engwe sent me along spare battery for it, so I had a 16 amp hour battery with it. And with the range of the 2 batteries, it's all the range you'll ever need on an e-bike. Mechanical brake levers, simple monochrome display, 7-speed shifter, and the throttle. Nice solid rack coming down to Shimano Tawny derailleur. We've got a nice, these new thicker derailleur guards, and Chaoyang tyres. 48 volt 13 amp hour battery in the middle of the bike. Controller sits in there. Got a nice bottle rack there. Seeing as it isn't a folding e-bike, it's got some nice solid pedals. I like these. They've got a nice wide grip on them. Rear light with brake light. Mudguard. BMX style handlebars coming down to a front basket. front headlight, mechanical brakes at the front, and mechanical brakes at the rear, and a nice kickstand. Looks utilitarian, which I like. But yeah, all in all, looks fab. So let's get up this hill. I can't see having any problems getting up here. I've ridden it on the way over. But as I always point out, if an e-bike can't get up this hill, it's not worth having. I've got this unlocked. It comes EU locked. This one you can still unlock. I want a bit of fun with this bike today. And if I can have it unlocked, I'm going to have it unlocked. And there you go, no land speed records again, but I'm not out of breath, and it quite easily made it up the hill. Did a bypass run. It's quite windy today, and as you've seen earlier, the road's quite moist. I like saying that word. Probably gets rid of half my followers in one foul swoop. So I've opened it up to pass 5 unlocked. So I've got the throttle working at the same time. Just trying to be a bit conservative on this wet road here, because this goes onto the bypass and it is wet. And when I say wet, I mean wet. But yeah, grip's fine. So let's go. If you're going to ride on roads like this, always wear an helmet, always use mirrors. You need to know what's going on around you. And as I explained in my last video, I was in my car here a couple of weeks ago and somebody went into the back of me and I was parked. So it just proves people aren't concentrating when they're sat in their cars. Just be visible. Take up as much of this road as you want, because if you're timid or ride this bike like, you know, you're scared of being on the road, they'll intimidate you. You need to be not aggressive when you ride, but you need to make yourself known. And if you don't, well, so let's have a ride around town, see what this is like. So the road manners on this bike, really good, really stable, really, really nimble. In fact, it's one of the most nimble bikes I've ridden. Yeah, definitely one of the most nimble bikes I've ridden. It's yeah, it's just nice. If they're not unsafe, answer me this, if throttles are so unsafe, how come you're allowed to have them at 12 mile an hour on a scooter? Because the way I see that is, you can still have assistance on a scooter if you're pushing it along. The push along is the cadence. Anyone get what I'm saying, or am I just losing my mind? So that brings me into my third favourite e-bike that Engwe have released this year, last year, any year, and it's the L20 Boost. It's basically the L20 with a bit of steroids in it. It's just a fabulous little e-bike, and running that second battery, having a torque sensor, the range is incredible. The range is just incredible on it. And because of the boost button, you've got torque to get up anything. It changes the way e-bikes should be made. Because of the UK throttle laws, it's sort of a bypass for the time being. Hopefully at some point these laws are going to change, but at the moment I think we're a couple of years away from actually seeing anything change with the e-bike laws, which is a shame. But in the meantime, we've got the L20 Boost, and I absolutely love this bike, as you already know. It was hard to let go of it, really. I'll get another one this year, retest it again, do a month of testing on it. So let's see what we're dealing with. Let's start with suspension, forks at the front, block and suspension plush, 20-inch alloy wheels with 20-inch by 4-inch Cherryang tyres. We've got 160mm rotors at the front with mechanical brakes. Some of my favourite pedals on here, they're nice and wide and they're metal. 160 rotors at the rear with mechanical brakes again. Metal mud guards at the front and again at the rear. You can see they've partially done their job over the last couple of days. Usual suspect Engwe rear rack, but genuinely a good solid rack. It comes with a 13 ampere battery, but I've got a 16 ampere that they sell as a second battery that they've sent me as well. And in there, you've got your controller and all the rest of your wiring. Really comfortable. When I say that, it's strange for me to say that about an Engwe saddle, but it's a really comfortable flip top saddle, so you can get your battery out. Job done. 7-speed freewheel at the back with what I assume is a restricted 750 watt motor, going down to turny derailleur. The nice derailleur guard. They're getting thicker, these things. Mechanical brake levers at the front. Trigger bell. I like that. There you've got that beautiful display. Control buttons are there, you see underneath. You've got a nice adjustable stem here. And obviously BMX handlebars. You've got your usual 7-speed Tombstone gear changer. Another mechanical brake and a quarter twist throttle. Nice bright front headlight. See how bright it is on my hand, look. Nice front basket. Comes free with the bike. Adjustment point here for your lock and open of your suspension. Double-sided chain guard on the chainring. I do these reviews as I ride the bike, as you'll be riding the bike, in all the situations you'll be riding the bike. So bear that in mind when you watch the video. Anyway, let's see how it got on. So we're heading off up the hill, 112 feet, over a third of a mile. And as you've heard me say many a time on one of my other videos, if an e-bike can't make it up here, it's not worth having. Let's have a look at what we're doing. I'm pottering along on a light slope at the moment, past 5, using the gears. And it's fine. We're getting some pace up now. And now I'm at pretty much the speed limit. And I can feel the bike holding back, but Let's hit this boost button, see what happens. And there we go. 18, 19 mile an hour. And I'm having absolutely no problems getting up this hill. As you'd expect, or hope. As you'd hope. Almost the point as I was hoping. But yeah, and getting up to this point here at nearly 16 mile an hour is faster than most of the bikes that I can get up here. So it's made it up there fine. So let's go up and do the bypass run. It's going to be a bit gingerly around here because the ground is definitely wet and it's quite slippy in places, so I'm just going to be very aware of my tyres. But so far so good. I'm really enjoying how this bike works. I did a test with it last week in the bad weather, and let me just say it was bad weather, ice and snow everywhere. But I did 12 miles and got down to, I think it was 4 bars, but when I switched the bike back on I was back up to 5. So it's, if that's anywhere near real, that's pretty good going. Let's get on the bypass. I say, if you're going to be riding along bypasses, mirrors, helmet, gloves. I do this test because some of you are going to be riding bikes to working back on roads like this, and you need to know what it's like in traffic. And with the boost button on at 21 mile an hour, this is perfect. It really is. I'm having absolutely no problems being in the traffic here. That's fabulous. And now you can see I'm at the front of the traffic, come the lights, and I can assure you, when I need to set off, I'll be using that boost button, and you'll see how it works. So here we go, hit the boost button, hit the pedals, and quickly you're moving away, out of the way of traffic. And it does this on, well, it does it on steep hills too from the standoff, which is brilliant. It's exactly what we want. It's a road legal bike, it's a road legal e-bike with some balls when it needs it. And let's go have a mooch around town, see how we get on. As I'll probably, it's as nimble as the L20 was. Just want to say that. There's a lot of similarities between this and the L20, but there's a lot of major differences. But it handles really well, it's very nimble. It really is nimble. Let's click down some gears. Here's a brake test right here, people just walk out in front of you. But that's not the point. Come down here for the tyre test. Today it's really slippy, and like I always say, if I'm ever going to come off, it's going to be around here, but kind of, it's not very dry, it's quite slippy, but it has no problems if you're wanting to hit the brakes a bit. These tyres are really good, I should have more trust in them, to be honest. That boost button, it's all the torque you need to get away. Like I say, if I hit it now, look at the speed this thing gets up to quite quickly. It's a turbo. It's a turbo for your e-bike. And I love it. So yeah, when I come up with the idea about a year ago, and here's proof, And I know Engwe have been watching my channels for a long time. The whole idea was that we had something that we could use to get the bike going on hills, and it does that fantastically. It's everything I expected it to be. And I know I keep harping on about it being my idea, but it's a hell of a coincidence, isn't it? Honestly, I'm not bothered. I'm quite flattered, and I'm glad somebody took. I wish more e-bike companies were taken on board. It's just a good idea, and it works really well. So have a shout out to Chaoyang again in their puncture resistant tyres. I do go on about these tyres a lot. And somebody asked me the other day what should they change their tyres to. I don't like Kender Craze. Well, I quite like Kender Craze, but I've kind of got used to these, and I think they're fabulous tyres. You know, they've got a bit of grip to them, although this morning when I did my grip tests at the bottom of the hill, it is quite slippery down there. And I just didn't hold my nerve for it, but I think they'd have been fine. I feel safe riding this around town, I really do. I feel better in the traffic when I can hit that boost button. So what's in it 2? Well, 2 would define what's at number 1, wouldn't it? So you know it's probably a toss-up between 2 bikes, which is the LE20 cargo bike that I reviewed just before Christmas, and what I'm riding today, which is the Engwe Engine Pro 2.0. And technically, points wise, I gave more points to the LE20. So what's it going to be? Well, it's going to be a bit of a surprise really, because in it too is the LE20. Technically brilliant, a fantastic bike, and one of the problems is the only time I've ridden it so far is probably to do the review, so I probably need a bit more time on it. But technically it's brilliant. It does everything you can ask of an e-bike. Everything. It's got torque for days. You can fill it up with weight, as you saw in the review. I added 100-pound weight to the back of the bike for the first part of the review, and I was going up some really steep hills, including the hill climb, and it didn't stutter once. Absolutely brilliant e-bike. So what are we dealing with? Let's have a good look. This frame, I absolutely love the configuration of this frame. It's really sturdy, but let's get down to what we're dealing with. I think that's a 7-speed cassette, not a freewheel. Tawny derailleur, 20x3 wheels with 20x3 road tyres. Rear brake light with indicators, as you can see operating at the moment. Not the best light, but it shows it off. They come with the cards to stop your kids trapping their feet in the wheels when you've got them on the back. Centre kickstand. Engwe's own mid-drive apparently, 100 Newton meters. 180 rotors at the front with hydraulic brakes. Suspension with adjustable rebound, which is new for Engwe. Front fork now has actual adjustments. You can hear it clicking, so it's not just on and off, which is a nice departure for Engwe from the usual stuff. Plastic mud guards, front and rear. Down there we've got a 20 ampere 48 volt battery. If you buy the dual version, you've got a 20 ampere 48 volt additional battery if that's what you paid for. Chain tensioner there, works really well, really well. A nice, comfortable flip top saddle. I do like this saddle. Very good. Feels more comfortable than the ones that I ride around on normally that they put on the bikes. Nice, solid gooseneck stem. The rear canvas is an addition. I absolutely love this bag. The amount of stuff that you can get in it. And it's been nice not to actually ride around with my backpack on. And I can get as much photography equipment in that as I want. Again, the front basket's an addition that you can pay for. But it's worth getting. I've thrown my helmet in it, and I've actually had my rucksack in it earlier. That front light is very bright. Again, I'm showing it off in the daylight, but it's very, very bright. I was riding around with it last night and it was fine. So here we've got your adjustment buttons. So for your pass, turn on and off, and into your modes. Got various modes you can use. I've always liked these grips. I love this display, I really do. Cycle through the colours for you. And then off. So 5 levels of pass. Tombstone gear changer, indicator buttons there, and no throttle. Hydraulic brake levers on the left and the right, and quite good cable management. Whichever way you're going to look at it, most bikes are going to have to have some sort of cable management on them. Different pedals to what we're used to. They've got some sort of skateboard grip tape on the middle, but they're very comfortable, very wide. I'm going to be swapping them out, but I do like them. Mounting points there for the feet boards that go left and right. You can buy them as an additional buy if you've got kids. But yeah, there's a lot to like about this bike. And don't for 1 minute think because it looks small on the video, it's small. It's actually quite a big bike. Really is quite big. So, let's see how it gets on. Let's go. 112 feet over 1/3 of a mile hill climb. Let's see how it manages. It's like no other e-bike I've ridden before. It's massively silent. There's no noise coming from the mid-drive, and there's no noise coming from the tyres. So, yeah, there's that. If you're anything like me, you can't stand rattles on things, especially my car. If I find a rattle, oh dear. But yeah, for its weight, it's doing rather well. As usual, we're not going to be beating any land speed records, but it's getting up here fine. Job done. Yeah, it's just downhill, this thing. And I mean, if you want to save battery, you just disengage the pedals. You're not using any power whatsoever then. But the tyres have got a really good grip to them. You know, these are road tyres. These are not for going sort of round the park on, although you can go around the gravel paths on them. But they marry up, I mean, 42 kilometers an hour. They marry up really well with these brakes that are, look, they're really good, these brakes. So I can stop on a dime on these. So a bit like the Boost and the Engine Pro 2.0, this bike keeps surprising me. It really does. It's a move away from what you expect from an Engwe. It really is a move away. And as you can see, these tyres are fine on gravel. Chow Yangs again. I mean, you could categorise this as what it's meant to be categorised as, if it's a, you know, cargo bike for carrying stuff or carrying kids, or, but that doesn't do it justice. It's, well, it's such a clever little machine. There we go, little again. So you've all seen me come up here before. And like I say, if you know Wakefield, you know how steep this hill is. You can see the graduation starting in front of me. And it's like that to the top, really. But that's no problems getting up here. Is it the fastest? No. But it got me up there. So those of you unaware, this versatile canvas bag, well, they just call it versatile canvas. It's actually a bag. It's not just for keeping your kids dry in wetter weather when you've got them on the back. And this brings me to another point. I've taken the one side off for those of you who are never going to use that card, but the little foot grabber thing to stop kids from sticking their feet in, I've left on the other side just for filming today. But in my version, the one that I'm going to be using as a long-term bike, that's coming off because I don't need it. There's obviously down beneath there, look, you've got your peg stands which can be screwed in. They're a separate item. But yeah, so far so good. Why I've chosen the Engine Pro 2.0 over the LE20 is the smiles this bike gives me, and the power it's got, the torque it's got, 52 volt architecture. It's just a different animal, and I absolutely love getting out on this. I really do. It's an absolutely fantastic bike. So there we have it. The Engwe Engine Pro 2.0 is my #1 e-bike release in the last year. It's an absolutely fantastic bike. It's not faulted once. Some of you are saying like, oh, I won't buy a folding e-bike, it's this and this. Well, I've never folded this e-bike. I pretty much only folded the Engine Pro that I had for about 3 times. It's just a brilliant bike, and I know I've done a lot to this bike. I know I've modded it, but it doesn't take away from the basic bike. The basic bike is fantastic. The torque sensor, it's just one of the best torque sensors I've tested out there. I've heard people say, oh, I don't get on with the torque sensor. Well, you know, you can have a cadence sensor and lose some range. That's up to you. But for me, I absolutely love this bike. It's an absolute bargain too. It really is an absolute bargain for what you get on this bike. You know, hydraulic brakes, torque sensor, 52 volt battery, you know, 8-speed. It's all you need on an e-bike. This, for me, if you like going out on adventures, this is the bike you buy. If you like going out and just roaming around the streets, you know, going off to canal rides like I do, this is the bike you want. If you've got kids, if you want something to be able to tow your kids along with you, get yourself the LE20. The LE20, like I say, it's a different animal altogether. It does things that this can't, but this does things that that can't. But this just pips it to the post. Technical points aside, you know, this one wins. This one wins every time. So here we are at the biggest hill I can find, and this comes back into Wakefield from a place called Horbury Bridge. So this is 52 volts, about 16 amp hours, and we're going to get it up this big hill. When I did the trailer test, I got it wrong. It's over 112 feet at 1/3 of a mile, so it's far steeper than I thought it was. But you know, I said I'm going to torture this bike, and we've got the trailer on it, and we've got 65 kilos of weight in it. So right at the moment, with me on, this weighs 1/4 ton. So let's see how it does getting up this hill. Let's see how this torque sensor does. So here we go then, like I said, over 100, I think it's 112 feet in a third of a mile to the top, which is, it's pretty hard going. Let's just see how it does. This is a steep hill. I've been up here before with a trailer, but not with this much weight in. And I can definitely feel it. So like I said, at the moment, this bike weighs over 1/4 metric ton. Let's see how it does. I can definitely feel that trailer dragging me around a bit. It's definitely struggling, but with a bit of power in it, a bit of energy, it's definitely getting up this hill. Come on, son, you can do it. So, getting it over here is about 5 miles, and it's about 5 miles back. But it's done it. I like the colour. I didn't like it when I thought it's going to be green, but the more I look at it, the more I quite like it. Get some stickers on there and you're away. Biggest surprise for me so far is that torque sensor. I've done 10 miles so far and I'm still on 5 bars. And I have to be honest with you, although I haven't been going fast, I haven't put a lot of energy into it either. I've put as much into it as I wanted. And that's worked out quite well for me. So let's keep riding it, see what sort of range we get out of it. Let's give you an example of this sensor. If I get some power into it now and then really give it some pasty, you can see that speed building up. I can also feel my legs burning a bit, which you sort of like expect with one of these sensors, but it works really well. It works really well combined with the throttle. So if you don't want to pedal, you just hit the throttle and the throttle cuts in and you're away. Bit of steep hill here, 20 mile an hour, it's getting a pat, no problem. Drop the gears down, put some energy into it. And I'm coming up to 12 miles on this, including pulling that big trailer for 8 miles. And I hope this ain't broke because I'm still on 5 bars. Well, the tyres seem to be holding up fine. They're budget chow yang, but they're quiet. Not really heard any noise out of them. As you can hear on here, nothing. They're grippy enough. I'd rather have road tyres on because mainly I go on the road and road tyres are fine on here. But yeah. So, what's on the release roster for Engwe this year? Well, February, March, we've got the Map 4 N1. Carbon fibre, all singing, all dancing, lots of whistles on it. and I can't wait to get my hands on that bike, because I think it'll resolve all the mistakes they made with the P275 Pro, which was basically that gearbox. It kind of ruined the bike. Technically brilliant. If you live somewhere flat, buy one. But if you don't, if you have hills in the area, it didn't work whatsoever. It didn't work for me. And it's one of the few bikes that I actually managed to get up the hill climb in the end. But the first 2 tries were, I couldn't do it. Eventually I got used to the bike, but I'm hoping the Map 4 N1 will resolve all those issues that I had with that bike. And it's got the Ananda mid-drive on that the P275 Step2 had on that, which worked brilliantly. It absolutely worked fantastically. It was a better bike than the Pro. So from there, I think the Map 4 N1 will be, or the Map 4 editions will come in 2 flavours. It's not just going to be the carbon fibre. I think they're going to have an aluminium version of it. Don't quote me on that, but I know there's 2 versions of the bike coming. So a new folding e-bike coming this year, so I'm not sure where they're going with that. But yeah, a new folding e-bike coming from Engwe in 2025. So already at the beginning of the year, there's some exciting news coming from Engwe. I still believe they're growing up. I still believe they've sort of got the hang of the fact that they can't flood the market in the UK with the bikes that they want to. And I hope this year that we'll start to see more IP65 rated e-bikes from all manufacturers. It's the one thing that when I set poles out and I put that in it, it's the top thing that people want. They're all willing to pay that little bit extra to have IP65 or more rated e-bikes. Well, what can I say? More power. Be able to ride it all year round. And at the moment, not a lot of bikes out there that are IP65 rated. Some of you probably quote some in the comments. But without that, in the UK, we're restricted to the days that we can ride these bikes. I hear loads of you saying, oh, I ride mine in the rain, it's fine. Well, it's fine until water finds a way, and then it's not fine. And then your bike's buggered. So, yeah, lots of exciting stuff coming up. I've got a new company that I'm reviewing an e-bike for the first time. Let's see how that goes. I've also got another couple lined up in the future. With me, it's just having the time, running a business and doing this. It sort of wipes me out, and I've had a nice break over Christmas, which I really needed. I understand more when I see YouTubers going on about I've got burnout. I get it, because a lot of you still hold down jobs. It's not a full-time job, and you're constantly coming up with new ideas. That's hard in itself, the creativity side, without trying to copy anybody else, but everything's been done. Well, I say everything. I've still got to do my review for the Engwe Y10 scooter. I've got plans for that. So yeah, lots of exciting things coming up. Hopefully get past the 2,000 mark subscribers in the next month or 2. Oh, one more thing. I'll also be doing more things about UK e-bike law, where it's going, where I see it going. You know, the constant demonisation of e-bikes drives me nuts. There's no reason for it, apart from the obvious ones, which are the oil companies, car industry, everybody that's motorcycle industry, even the UK cycle industry. We were all at a meeting last year to demonise Chinese e-bikes. They really stuck it in. And this was just before the Conservatives were to do a review of what they were going to be doing with e-bikes, maybe changing it up to 500 watts and, you know, a throttle at 15.5 mile an hour. This never came about. Nobody cares about the speed limit changing that much. I mean, it is sort of important. I'd love 18.5 mile an hour, but we're stuck with 15.5 mile an hour. But the whole thing's a joke. You know, you can't have this motor on this, you can't do this, you can't ride uphill with any sort of throttle support. but you can do 30 mile an hour downhill, freewheeling, which is far more dangerous than riding uphill with a throttle. Anyway, that's it for now. I'll have a new review up next week. I'll also have another sort of look at the P20 because it's a fantastic little commuter bike and I don't think it gets the love it deserves. And to come in at 5th on top of the other commuter bikes they make proves it should prove to you how good that bike is, because I've reviewed nearly all Engwe's e-bikes and one of the biggest surprises so far, that little P20.